This is OFN NFL Preview on the Ourlads Football Network as we preview our final division in 8 weeks. It's the 8th week, 7 weeks, plus this is 8. And the AFC West is our final division to preview, Mark, for the 2020 NFL season.
Well, you might say that we saved the best for last. As far as the AFC is concerned, that's arguable, but wherever the defending Super Bowl champions reside, that's always a good starting point.
Yeah, and look, it is going to be it looks to be, well, actually, I would say there are two teams that I think will improve. One I'm not so sure of, but we'll get into that. Chiefs are probably the most heavily favored team to win the division out of any other team. I don't even think it's close. They are minus 350. So I'm sorry, but Patrick Mahomes could go down in week 1 or week 2 and you'd lose all of your money. So I could never put money, even though it's, if he stays healthy and everybody's healthy, the Chiefs will probably win the division. We get that. But minus 350, would you ever wager on something at minus 350?
I would never do that even if the season were over and I knew the result. I would do that, okay? That's against my DNA.
I know. I don't understand, but, whatever. That's why, it's interesting with horse racing. Watching Maximum Security over the weekend, and he was, what was he, like I don't know. I think his odds started at 1-9 when I started looking, like about a half hour before post time. Then it got down to about, I don't know, it was something like 2-5, something like that. And so he wins easily. And I just remember saying to myself, I in a lot of other handicapping situations, I see other horses that are heavily favored in big races, same odds, similar, and sometimes they don't win because it's just, you never know. And I wonder, why would you, if you're somebody in horse racing that will wager big on favorites, then I could only do that with great horses. I couldn't do that with just any good horse that looks good on paper. Yeah, he's won a couple of big grade 1 races. But if I'm ever going to do that in a horse race, man, I would never feel comfortable unless it was like a huge, really big time horse, like a Maximum Security.
Well, that's where bridge jumpers are born.
Yeah.
Those that bet the show bets on horses like that,
Yeah,
that are
show bets.
1-9.
Yeah, to make 10 cents and then to
to
put $1 million on it so they can make $100.
Exactly. They'll put 20,000 on it, okay? To make 1,000, or to make
100.
What is it? 100, yes, to make 100. So, that's a horse race, okay? When you're talking about a team like the Kansas City Chiefs in football, okay, he's got to beat 29 other horses here, and he's heavily favored to do so. And I'm going to call the Maximum Security angle out here as well, because Maximum Security has won big races, a la the Kentucky Derby, but was taken down for foul, okay, for disclaiming of fouls.
And the horse, that's right.
And the horse tends to be hard to stay in his lane. So, and it was that day because of the weather conditions. So you've got weather conditions which tie back into a horse's nature or his personality. Hence, you can never do that with a Maximum Security and go out and bet a horse like that at 1-5 and expect to stay around and continue to keep loading up bullets week after week, because eventually one of those losses is going to really kill you.
Yes, and forget about it with football. It's just so unpredictable. Yeah, the Chiefs look great on paper. We get that. Yes, they're going to probably win the division, like we said, but injuries happen. And they're 3-1 to win the championship, 6-1 to win the Super Bowl. It's hard to repeat. I don't care who you are. It's hard to repeat as a Super Bowl champ. 6-1, still not a bad number if you throw out the repeat factor. If you're a big Chief guy, I can see why you might be interested in going with the Chiefs there. Denver and the Chargers and the Raiders are very closely between 8 and 9-1 to win the division. And they're pretty close in all three other aspects. 25-1 to 50 for Denver, 28-50 for the Chargers, 30-80 for the Raiders. So they're pretty close, which will make things interesting on this show as we try to separate the three, starting with the Chiefs. And before we get into that, here is the Playbook magazine that you would like to order at playbook.com. You can also check it out at Books A Million, Barnes and Nobles. That's those are some pretty kick-ass bookstores, Mark.
Yeah, it's a pretty popular magazine right now, especially with the NFL football season going to kick off in about 2 weeks. I just want to throw this quick little plug in there, if I may, that because of the uncertainty about the football season here, a lot of people were on the fence about wondering whether or not they want to come aboard and follow our stuff, depending upon whether it'll be a season or not. So what we did is we put together a compilation of the best of all the Playbook products in one kit. It's called the NFL Starter Kit. So it's the best of the magazine, the best of our newsletter, the best of our black book, the best of everything. It's a nifty little publication, so you might want to check that out at playbook.com.
All right, let's get right to it. The Chiefs, heavy favorites, as we mentioned, to win. So it's really, I guess I should just turn it right back to you and ask you whether or not you have any juicy defending Super Bowl champion historical trends, any statistics that'll help us out, because again, as I said, it's not easy defending no matter how good you are.
Well, it's very, very difficult to defend. Even Bill Belichick, in his best years with New England, when they did defend, they were oftentimes point spread losers throughout the course of the season in doing just that. Because it's a conundrum, because if the team you're backing, like Kansas City, throughout the course of a season, a defending champion, is winning and looks like they're going to get back there again this year, they become very, very popular to the public. And the odds makers have to compensate for that. So you're going to see spreads in Kansas City this year like you did not see last year, especially with Patrick Mahomes now rising to the top of the mountain as he did last football season here. I'm going to say this, though, and I'm going to look for a turn of events here this year. If you take a look at Kansas City, the last 7 years, they have gone over their season win total 7 straight years in a row. Yes. Now they've got to get over an 11.5 season win total, which means for you to cash this ticket, they're going to have to win 12 of their 16 regular season games. And being the targeted team that they're going to be, and the fact that their defense, while it played a much better last year, I still don't think is a world-class defense. And also look inside those numbers last year, Greg. Their offense slipped 34 yards a game last year, 5 points a game last year. I think they were very fortuitous to make it to the Super Bowl, and they were even more fortuitous the way that things turned in their favor in the fourth quarter of that game. So, to me, this is not a Super Bowl lock by any means. And I will have no problem at all fading Kansas City in the right roles this year, because as we often talk about on the show here, it's all about value. And there'll be plenty of value in fading Kansas City this football season.
Yeah, I think what they really missed was that big-time running back. And even though they had some good production out of Damian Williams, and he had his moments, the fact is there's just – look, that's the reason they went out and used up their top pick on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was a perfect fit for this Kansas City offense. I don't think he was the best running back of the class, but he is the perfect fit for this Chiefs offense. So that'll help. I still don't think of him, though. He's not going to give them the production that they had a couple of years ago. And that's, I still think, going to maybe be the issue. It is interesting that you bring up the win total, because when you get teams that are so explosive offensively, this college of the NFL, they can appear better than they are because they're so exciting. They make these big plays. They have this fantastic young quarterback. And then forget it. They win these comeback games in the postseason. They win the Super Bowl. Wow, this is going to be a dynasty in the making. And just ask Seattle how that worked out. So, and Russell Wilson. So it doesn't, because I'll tell you right now, I'd still take Russell Wilson over Patrick Mahomes in a one-game situation. I just love Russell Wilson. I think he's the best quarterback in the league right now. But that's So I could see that there's still room for improvement because, as I was mentioning, you would have thought they were a 14-win team last year.
Well, you might have thought they were. By the way they finished, they won and covered 9 straight games in a row to close out the season, which was rather impressive on their end to do just that. And they got them to the 15-win level by the end of the year when it ended. But I'm going to throw another stat at you. It's a pretty interesting stat about Andy Reid. And I love handicapping head coaches. Andy Reid is one of my favorite head coaches to handicap because he is very handicappable.
All right.
Okay, he does a lot of things in certain roles well, and he does things in other roles poorly. So what I'll be looking to do is look for those roles that he struggles in, especially this year, because he can be carrying, like a racehorse, he's going to be carrying about 6 or 8 extra pounds into the race because of the success. But Andy Reid in his career, if you take a look at him, in the regular season, when he's gone up against opponents that last year made the playoffs, he's gone up against 30 of them in his career. He's won 11 of those football games. He's 11-19 straight up doing just that. Andy Reid will salt away bad football teams, and he'll struggle against the better football teams. Now, it didn't look to be that way last year when down the stretch, obviously, they swept in the playoffs, and they beat New England to get there as well. But I'm saying that right now this year, he's going to be carrying all this extra weight. And when he goes up against these teams that were in the playoffs last football season here, that's when we'll want to snap the rubber band.
Yeah, Andy Reid's always been a very innovative, top-notch offensive mind, but he was never and has never been looked upon as one of the top head coaches of the game. He's not a guy that you go, when you're thinking of, well, who do I want on the sideline? Even active head coaches, we wouldn't pick up Andy Reid. Probably, I'm not even sure we do that in a top 5. I'd have to think about it, but I don't think we would. So that is something to keep in mind too. That is Andy Reid and this team capable of coming back and winning the Super Bowl again, back to back. So I can see them definitely winning another Super Bowl at some point, but back to back is just such a hard thing to do. All right.
Well, it's difficult, and because they're going to have to get through a couple of pretty decent teams of the AFC to get there.
Yes.
And if should they arrive at the Super Bowl, they're going to play a football team that's likely playing with a lot of momentum out of the NFC. So I'm going to say no for Kansas City to repeat this year.
Yeah, the AFC is definitely tougher than the NFC, and then they're going to have the pressure of being the team that is going to be the heavy favorite, the defending champ in the playoffs, and they'll be at home. And even though they won those games last year, for whatever reason, and they got great fans, but when they get, even last year, especially that Tennessee game and early in the Houston game, they always make things interesting at home. They're just, they for whatever reason, they buckle under the pressure a lot as the home team. Now they broke through, they got it done last year, but now the pressure goes back again because everybody's after them, and they're going to be the heavy favorite. And everybody's going to be talking about, oh yeah, I love the Chiefs this week, and yeah, they're going back to the Super Bowl. Because I think there's going to be, I'd say, I'm gonna guess that 80% or more of the top media experts are going to pick the Chiefs to either get to the Super Bowl or win it.
Remember this, Greg. You mentioned that home field of theirs at Arrowhead. It's been very, very good for this football team here. Said to be the toughest stadium of visiting teams to have to play in. But this year, those fans could turn to stiffs because there'll be cardboard fans in the stands.
At least early
and
on.
May not benefit them.
Yep. I don't know. Have you heard anything? Is that as they've made where? So it's, yeah. I haven't heard anything about Missouri. It's a state I haven't heard much about.
I don't know, but you see with Miami announcing, they're gonna allow 25 or 30% of the people in attendance.
That's about normal average for the Dolphins anyway, week to week.
Yeah, it is. So you pan the stands and look the same, nothing different. Yeah. Okay. But other teams are going to also hop on that bandwagon. They're going to do their very, very best to be able to put some live fans in the seats there. And I'm sure you'll see a few of them in Kansas City as well.
Okay, let's go to Denver. And the Broncos, who, by the way, Ryan Dunleavy, my co-host on some of the OFN Today shows from the New York Post, this is one of his sleeper playoff teams. And what are they again? So getting into the playoffs, you're taking a look at a team that did look, they looked a lot better with Drew Lock under center. He had his moments, he had his struggles as any rookie would, but there were a lot of people who thought that Drew Lock would not handle this because of his inaccuracy at the college level. Uh, but you did see something in him. He almost had like a kind of like a Brett Favre-ish kind of way about him, that he may not always be accurate. He may throw interceptions here and there, but you just like the makeup. You like just you look at him, and like for instance, if I take Drew Lock, even just look at Drew Lock's college tape, and look at Mitch Trubisky's college tape. I'm sorry, I know Mitch Trubisky is Mr. Accuracy, but I am taking Drew Lock 10 out of 10. Just looking at the guys, he's just a good. He's just your prototypical quarterback leader type guy that, again, he may not have certain qualities you like scouting wise, but sometimes those guys can actually find a way to slip through the cracks, break down those barriers, and still figure out a way to get his accuracy up just enough that everything else around him winds up working. He becomes a winning quarterback in the NFL, and I think that's what's going to happen with Drew Lock.
It will. I like what he did last year. He won 4 of his 5 starts. He gained some confidence. He'll be coached up this football season here. Now that they know he looks to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, he's surrounded by pretty good talent. Wide receivers, tight ends, Cortland Sutton and Noah Fant. And what I also like is the fact that they brought in his tight end from Missouri.
Yeah.
His favorite target at Missouri comes in here to the program as well. So I think he'll feel comfortable in his skin this year. Drew Lock will. Now, the question becomes, will he be able to not turn the football over? And will he be able to read the defenses? That's going to be obviously the telltale about him this season here. But I'm going to say this about the Denver Broncos. It's a football team. If you look at their schedule, they have only 2 road games this year against teams that had winning records last year.
Okay.
So that could work very well in their favor. What they're going to have to do is this. They're going to have to win division games. And the reason I'm calling that out is this. The last 4 years, this team has won a total of 9 division football games. You're not going anywhere when you do that, when you average just over 2 division wins a season. The previous 5 years, they won 28 division games. That's when they were rolling and in the playoffs here. So if they can take care of division opponents this year, and that'll be the key here, if they can knock down the Las Vegas, the Chargers, maybe even split out with Kansas City, or this team's got a real chance to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and look at some of the other factors pointing up. They stole Jarrell Casey, and not that Tennessee didn't know what they were doing, but just to be able to get Jarrell Casey for whatever 7th round draft pick, whatever it was, it's just, I mean, come on. I mean, that's just, Casey still has the ability. Maybe he only has a year or 2 left, but still, this year they have him. They traded for AJ Bayou. They should get, if all things work out for him, a healthy Bradley Chubb to go along with still Von Miller. And this is Vic Fangio we're talking about, one of the best defensive coordinators in the business, who was a head coach for the first time last year. So he gets the experience out of the way. This is his 2nd year, so that'll help offensively. Block. Now he gets Melvin Gordon in that backfield. He also gets the offensive line to add a couple of players, rookies, and DeMar Dotson was just signed to add some experience. And the receiving core got bolstered not just by KJ Hamler, but Jerry Jeudy. I mean, this guy could end up being a fantastic star in the NFL at receiver. Cortland Sutton had a breakout year last year. Noah Fant showed what he can do in certain games. He was only a rookie, so he has the ability to be a big-time player. So, yeah, this is a team that's definitely trending up. In order to win the division, that's going to be something different, especially with Locke only in his 2nd year. But when you take a look at the other quarterbacks that he's facing between the Chargers and the Raiders, why not Drew Lock and the Denver Broncos as the team with the best chance to knock off Kansas City?
I agree. Like I say, if they can split out against the Chiefs this year, that would be huge for them. They're going to play them the week before their bye week, so they'll let everything out for that particular football game. I like what Fangio is going to do with this team here. He's all about defense first and foremost, and we saw it last year. That improvement was there last year. It's a football team that improved 28 yards a game last football season here. If they stay on that path that way this year, and Drew Lock can play anything close to what he did last football season here, I think they could end up being the surprise team in the division.
All right, next up, the Chargers. And Joe Reedy, who works for the Associated Press, covers the Chargers out in California, is going to be my guest on the OFN today, a little bit later on. So that will be available on demand tonight. And so I'll get an opportunity to find out what's going on with the Chargers because, look, this is about timing with Justin Herbert, similar to the Miami Dolphins with Fitzpatrick and Tua. I have more faith in Fitzpatrick than I do with Tyrod Taylor. You hear about, Tyrod Taylor, and he's got this experience. And, I'm so sick of hearing Tyrod Taylor's name boosted up like he's going to make an impact for this team after Phillip Rivers. Maybe I give the benefit of the doubt because he was with the Cleveland Browns coaching staff last. But he's had his opportunities. He is what he is. He's a really good backup. That's all he is. And I just can't imagine the Chargers are going to wait very long before they give Herbert a shot.
Yeah, he's a serviceable quarterback is what he is. And, they're not going to make the playoffs because of him, and they're probably not going to play themselves out of the playoffs because of him. He's a very, very conservative quarterback in his approach and everything that he does. I wouldn't be surprised if by halfway throughout the season here that Justin Herbert is behind center for this team, only because he's got this big, strong arm that impresses the heck out of everybody. And what I also am going to call is the fact is this. I talked to you before in the past about this. They are one of the few teams in the National Football League this year that really improved their statistics last year, offensively and defensively, but they went backwards straight up and against the spread. And those teams almost always improve the following football season here. So, you've got a trend here that tells me that look out for this football team here, because if they play anywhere to the same level they played last year, you're going to see to return to the norm, straight up and against the spread to this football team. So I like everything about them. The question to me is, will it be them or will it be Denver finishing second in this division?
Yeah, if it's going to be the Chargers, then it's going to have to be the running game. It's going to have to be the defense. And by the way, their coordinator will be a first-time coordinator. He took over midseason for Wisenhunt last year. We'll find out how that works out. Now, and we forgot to mention, and I think it's a big deal too, that Pat Shurmur takes over for the Broncos as a coordinator, and that's another big improvement for Denver because the guy they had last year was obviously in over his head. He wasn't ready for the job. So I don't know whether or not this guy is going to be the deal, but he's going to get a chance. Maybe that's going to be something that will help the Chargers more than we're going to guess that it will. And I'll find out when I talk to my special guest a little bit later on about that. Justin Herbert, though, he's going to get in and play. I just think that when you compare, Locke has already got experienced. If I'm just thinking about the Chargers in Denver, I think that's why I got to go with Denver because I can't see Tyrod Taylor being a difference maker unless, like I said, a whole lot of other things have got to happen. And I look at this team, and yeah, they got really good receivers in Allen and Mike Williams. It's a great combination. If Hunter Henry could ever stay healthy, Eckler, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelly's a nice threesome at running back. But the offensive line has been an issue for them for years. And I don't know about the defense. They added Chris Harris, which was a nice pickup. Derwin James is a star. They drafted Kenneth Murray in the first round. They have Ingram. They have Bosa. So they do have the talent there. And Gus Bradley's been there. So he's a good coordinator. But the quarterback position is what I just think is going to hold them back.
Well, I'm going to go back to Taylor real quick here. And you mentioned the quarterback position here. And talking about being serviceable. In his career, he's 23, 22, and 1 as a starter. That's about as mediocre, as average as you can possibly want to be. This amazing statistic about him in his career, and this is in our Playbook magazine, is that in any game that he's been the starting quarterback and his team has allowed more than 21 points in that game, Tyrod Taylor is 1-16 straight up and 16-1 against the spread. Basically saying that he's not able to go toe-to-toe with the Giants, with the football teams that could put points on the scoreboard. And if that ends up being the case this year, he's going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, okay, a football team like a magnitude of like that. He stands like little to no chance of winning the game or covering the point spread. So hence, I'm not saying that's the reason they're going to make the quarterback change. The reason they're going to probably make the quarterback change is more like his 23, 22-1 mediocre record.
Yeah, because at some point you want to get Herbert in there, you want to get experience, but what's also interesting is Anthony Lynn. You don't know about whether or not his job is on the line, and does he feel he's going to feel, you would think, more comfortable going with the veteran than throwing in the rookie just to give him playing time when it's going to hurt his win-loss record. So there has to be some sort of communication going on between the head coach, the front office, whoever's going to make the decision on whether Lynn goes or not, when the time is right to give Herbert the opportunity to run with it. So.
Well, a lot of people want to seem to put him on the hot seat, Anthony Lynn, and if they did, it would be for the wrong reasons. And I say that only because he's been there 3 years. In his first 2 years, he won 22 games. He had a down season last year where they only won 5 football games. But like I said, the statistics were up on both sides of the ledger here. So I'm going to give him a pass on Anthony Lynn. I don't think he's going to be on the hot seat this year. But if he ends up feeling that way, okay, then I concur with exactly what you're saying here. He would rather go with the tested veteran than he would the untested rookie.
And then finally, the Las Vegas Raiders, and talk about a situation that is just crushing for Vegas fans. They get their football team and they can't go to the games. So we'll find out how long that lasts. But that's a bummer. Anyway, they got their football team, and I look, when Gruden. It's interesting when Gruden got the deal with the Raiders. It was amazing how many people in the media, especially the bozos on ESPN, and how they just ripped apart Gruden, even though he was a member of the crew, he was a member of their media. I mean, nobody's ever said Gruden's a bad guy. I just think there was jealousy there. And because he got this sweetheart deal, this decade deal, and all this money and all this control, well, what has John Gruden done for the past 10 or 15 years? He's been in the booth. He hasn't done anything. He's only won 1 Super Bowl, and that was Tony Dungy's team. So I don't understand. I think it's jealousy, because he is a kind of likable coach. A lot of fans like John Gruden. He's a fun guy to root for. I just think he's a better coach, bottom line, than I think the media gives him credit for. And I think this marriage again with the Raiders, I think was a smart move. I think they're headed in the right direction. I don't know if Derek Carr is the right guy. I don't like what I see out of Derek Carr, because the dinking and dunking drives you crazy. Who knows? Maybe Marcus Mariota, if he stays healthy, maybe this is the perfect situation for him if John Gruden decides to give him a shot. I don't know. But the Raiders have got to get more like the old school Raiders. They've got to be able to throw the ball down the field, come up with some big plays. They drafted Henry Ruggs. Look, Ruggs isn't a guy you're going to dink and dunk with. You gotta hit Ruggs deep. You got to take advantage of him as a weapon. So I really like what they've done here. And the other thing, too, is you have the other ESPN guy who's the GM of the team. And there's another jealousy factor there of, he's just a guy, a TV guy. And I think they've done a very good job with personnel the first couple of years. The coaching, I thought the team played much better last year. So I actually think the Raiders are a team on the rise. Now, whether that happens this year or not, I have no idea, but I think they're headed in the right direction.
We were talking about Mike Mayock, who really loves picking off players from college football teams that really met with great success. And it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, yeah, exactly. And they're only going to well stock their roster because of doing something like that. And it showed somewhat last year, when they finished 7 wins in the football season. My main concern about Oakland this football season here is their schedule. My goodness, they got a ton of East Coast contest games that are going to start at 10 a.m. body clock time for them. They've got 4 primetime games. They're all at home. That would be good for them. If there were fans in the stands, it would be really good for them. But this travel that they're going to have to incur this football season is going to be horrendous, okay? They're starting out at New England. 2 weeks later, they go to Carolina. 2 weeks later, they go to New England. They'll be at Cleveland. They'll be at Atlanta. They'll be at the Jets. That could end up catching up with a football team that is not playing its best football. If they're playing good football, they can overcome situations and circumstances like that. So I think it's going to be key and pivotal for this Raiders football team to get off to a good start. That means a win at Carolina, which they'll be favored to do so and probably will, upsetting New Orleans at home in their home opener, and going in toe-to-toe with Bill Belichick and proving that they are indeed a good football team and beating Buffalo after that. If they can go into the Kansas City football game either 3-1 or 4-0, they can feel awful good about themselves. If they end up being 1-3 or 0-4, those road games I'm talking about will become long and lengthy, and they could end up being their undoing.
What do you think about Carr?
I think he's better than a serviceable quarterback. On his good days, he's very good. On his bad days, he's very bad. I don't think John Gruden's in love with him. I think John Gruden's looking to make a play here, and he'll go with him for as long as he can put up with him being mediocre in that sense. But and it also ties into what you said earlier here. How ironic would it be if Marcus Mariota ends up being the Ryan Tannehill of this year, the former starting quarterback who comes off the bench and leads the resurgence and ends up winning the NFL Comeback Player of the Year.
You never know, and that's going to be
the
mystery that could actually help the Raiders. Right. If anything, it pushes Derek Carr, because Derek Carr now knows he's got somebody on the bench that will definitely push him. That if he has a bad game or two, he may never see the field again as a Raider. So that could help.
Right.
Should help. All right, as far as wagering, again, forget about the Chiefs. They're just not a good wagering team. It's also very hard to think about. Look, Denver, the Chargers, the Raiders are not winning a Super Bowl, and they're not even getting to a Super Bowl. I think that's asking way too much. So if I'm going to think about anything in this division, I'm going to be thinking, okay, which team do I think has the best chance to knock off the Chiefs, and maybe take advantage of the crazy odds that the Chiefs have to win the division, which benefits the other three teams. So I'd probably think of either Denver or the Raiders to win the division. That would be my pick.
Well, the two teams that I like, given the fact that maximum securities in this division, okay?
Yeah.
That aside, okay, the other two horses I would look at, as far as maybe going over their season win total, would be the Denver Broncos and the LA Chargers, both at 8 wins for the season here. And it wouldn't surprise me. I would be stunned if both of them don't attain at least 8 wins. I think they both have a better chance of getting over 8 than they do under 8. I'm not keen on the LA Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, I should say, because of the schedule and because we don't know the uncertainty about Derek Carr. And what's it going to be like playing in a brand new stadium with 30,000 cardboard fans? I don't know if it's going to serve the team well, but the bottom line to me is I can see a team in the LA Chargers improving. I can definitely see a team in the Denver Broncos improving this year as well. All
right, next week we will start our final predictions. So we've spent the last couple of months, and a lot's happened over the last couple of months, which is why we said all along, the last couple of weeks, we are going to preview, first of all, the NFC. So we're going to make our predictions for each division. We're going to go over, once again, the updated odds, what we're going to use, whether it's division championships, NFC championships, or Super Bowl picks, win totals, things of that nature, and just overall predictions. And then moves on to the AFC the following week, and that will include overall predictions between both the AFC and NFC, and then we'll just have a little bit to talk about regarding Week 1 as well. And I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. It's going to be a very interesting Week 1. Just thinking about, have you come up with I'm assuming you have already, a strategy that will be any different, like if this was a normal year, of how you're going to handle Week 1?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Greg. I'm going to approach this like it is a normal Week 1, because whatever it ends up being, normal or not normal, it'll be the same for every team. So no one team's going to have an advantage or a disadvantage because of the pandemic. They're all going to be playing under the same circumstances. What I'm going to likely end up doing is going to my coaches database and finding out what I can use for coaches and their tendencies. Because if in doubt, look at the coach, look at the head coach, and what his best traits are, and start from that. And that'll be my starting point to begin this football season.
And again, it'd probably be a good idea to go with teams where they've had continuity. The continuity teams, especially if you have a continuity team versus the opposite, like whoever's playing the Giants. I don't even who's playing the Giants week 1. Do you know? Remember off the hand?
I could tell you real quick here. You talk about continuity while I'm looking this up here real quick.
Like if they were playing the Bills, which I know they're not. Like if it's the Bills or the Giants, man, I'm going big time on the Bills because no team has more continuity than the Bills, and no team has uncertainty than the Giants. So I would just love that matchup, which I'm not going to get. But who are they playing?
They're playing Pittsburgh. They're home to Pittsburgh.
And the only uncontinuity about Pittsburgh is just the Roethlisberger. That's it. Otherwise, the coaching staff and all that. So I would roll the dice. I would think the point spread would be 7-6 points, I would think. Is that what it is? Because I know the point spreads are already out.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh is. I think they're between 4 and 6 points.
So I would take Pittsburgh,
and it's a Monday night football game as well.
Oh, it is.
So,
okay. In Pittsburgh,
yes, right? So in New York. Now, and the reason I'm calling it out is the fact that in my database, first game of the season, teams playing on Monday night that are underdogs have been absolutely terrific. Monday night dogs, game 1 of the season, have been terrific. So. It's going to make a case for the New York Giants here. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to bet the New York Giants. It might keep me out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
So you use this stuff to keep you out of trouble as well.
100%.
Right.
All right. Great job as always, Mark. Can't wait. We still have a couple of weeks to go, but we're getting there. We'll we'll make our final predictions for the NFC next week.
Yeah, I look forward to it, Greg. Be well. Have a good week. Take care.